I'm reading this book called Crash Proof. I don't know if you're familiar with it, by Peter Schiff.
By who?
Peter Schiff. This guy has got my dad convinced that the stock market crash is imminent, and we need to pull our money out of, he's pulling his out of his 401k, all his investments, and he's trying to invest in gold and I guess overseas. But I'm wondering what your opinion is on that.
I'll try to be nice.
Okay.
I think it's absolutely ludicrous.
Okay.
Absolutely ludicrous. And, the guy that wrote the book's Irwin Schiff's dad? Or is Irwin Schiff's kid? Blake is telling me, oh my God.
I don't know. They've been talking about it on the Glenn Beck show. That's where my dad heard about it.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And he's recommending the book.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, Irwin Schiff is a kook that tells people that the IRS is not valid, and he gets people put in jail every year because they don't pay their taxes. That's who this guy's dad is. So this kid's dad is a nutburger, which probably means the kid's a nutburger. Could the stock market crash hypothetically? Yes, it could crash. But there is no indication sufficient out there for this kook's kid, who's probably a kook too, to say this. In order for the stock market to crash, you have to visualize this. Here's a simple way to look at it. Okay. Home Depot is closed. Microsoft is closed. Not just worth less, not just has less stores, is closed. Okay? Ford and General Motors are closed. They don't exist anymore. Okay? And Alcoa is closed. General Electric is closed. Whirlpool is closed. You starting to get the picture? The market is probably 100 times more sophisticated and complicated now than it was in 1929. So this man is, these people that predict these things, they really, honestly, are typically very uneducated, and they're doomsayers. Peter Schiff's nickname is Dr. Doom.
Right. Yep, I read that.
Okay. So, I mean, we really have to kind of take that into consideration. The point is that there's always a prophet of doom. There's always been a prophet of doom, and in this case, it's absolutely ludicrous. I will just tell you this. I know a lot about the stock market. I'm not an expert. I do not own any gold, nor am I buying any gold. It's a stupid investment. I have all of the money that I own tied up in bank accounts at banks, guaranteed by the FDIC, invested in good growth stock mutual funds in the stock market, and then paid for real estate. And I am not moving a dime because of an idiot like Peter.
Let's go back to what Dave Ramsey said. You talk about people not really listening. Let's talk about the common man. You've got Dave Ramsey, who has the Christian audience very dedicated to him, and he's coming out and saying that you are the Dr. Doomsday and that your book, Crash Proof, was really a doomsday dissertation on what you're not supposed to do. He discussed, for example, with the caller, that what would have to happen. Now, this is 2008, so we're talking about a very strong Dow, 12,000 plus.
When that conversation was recorded, the Dow was over 13,000 when that radio show. But obviously, look, I listened to it at the time, and, I heard about it because some people told me that Dave Ramsey had commented about me, and I actually reached out to Dave Ramsey's people after that was out to see if he wanted to have me on his program or to learn a little bit more about what I was saying and not just dismiss me as some kind of kook, which he did. And, of course, I got nowhere with Dave Ramsey's people. Now that it's 2010, it's 2 years after that interview, you can see how completely absurd his statements were. That's the way the typical person thinks. I mean, he holds himself off to be an expert, but clearly that's not the case. I mean, first of all, the person who called in, it was a woman whose father had read my book, Crash Proof, and after reading my book, he wanted to sell his stocks and buy gold. Now, that wasn't the only advice in my book. I had a chapter on gold. Now, at the time, I think gold was still under $800 an ounce, and the Dow was over 13,000. Obviously, the Dow today is 10,000 and gold is 1,100. Clearly, he would have been much better off doing exactly what he wanted to do, but Dave Ramsey told his daughter that he would be an idiot to do that only idiots bought gold, that it was a stupid investment, and clearly he was wrong. she said that I said the stock market was going to crash. He said that it couldn't crash, that a stock market crash was impossible because in order for the stock market to crash, he went off and listed about 6 different companies that would have to close their doors and go out of business. Now, you don't have to have companies going out of business for there to be a market crash, although a lot of major companies did go bankrupt in the collapse of 2008, and many more would have gone bankrupt had they not been bailed out. But if you just look at the 6 companies that Dave Ramsey mentions by name, Home Depot, Microsoft, Whirlpool, Ford, Alcoa, and GM, okay, here's how much those 6 stocks dropped. Home Depot dropped 43%, Microsoft dropped 57%, Whirlpool dropped 78%, Ford dropped 85%, Alcoa dropped 85%, and General Motors dropped 99%. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a crash to me. Even though those companies didn't close their doors, the share prices collapsed. And, so Dave Ramsey advised people not to sell these stocks, and in fact, when he told the caller what he was doing with his own money, he said he was leaving it in the bank, earning interest, which is practically zero, but that was better than owning those stocks. But then he said he was keeping his money in fully paid for real estate, meaning real estate without a mortgage. Well, this was January of 2008. Real estate in most parts of the country is off by 30 to 50% since January of 2008. That's a huge loss. And in fact, the people who lost the most money were the people who bought their real estate the way Dave Ramsey's recommended it without a mortgage. Because that's a real loss. I mean, if somebody bought a house with just 5% down or nothing down, they can walk away right now. And they can stick the losses on the lender. But if you followed Ramsey's advice and you paid all cash or you made a very big down payment, you can't walk away. You're stuck with those losses. And so he just did not understand the dynamics of the U.S. economy. He doesn't understand inflation or what creates it or where it comes from. He doesn't understand economics. He doesn't understand what drives economies to grow and prosper. He has a little bit of knowledge, just enough to make him dangerous to the extent that people think he knows what he's talking about and they follow his advice. He's really like the Pied Piper, leading people off the edge of a financial cliff.
Here's my take of all of this. You have individuals who do have an opportunity to listen to some different opinions, and there's nothing to say that Dave Ramsey at the time that he said it couldn't have been correct, but you're saying that you have a different view and that you need to, as an individual, listen to people that have a track record. And that's one thing I know that Ramsey always talks about is the track record. Now, here's my question. On a macroeconomic level, I understand that you're very frustrated because you're not getting any attention or seemingly not getting the kind of attention from the Obama administration. You've decided to run for Senate. Now, from the standpoint of an individual living in Michigan, and they like what you're saying, we're all about this type of new mentality in Washington. What, first off, are your chances of winning the Senate seat?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I have to win the Republican nomination, and I'm running against 2 people. One of them is a career bureaucrat politician who's was a representative for 6 years in Congress, and so he's running as a senator. And then I have another business person, Linda McMahon, who's very wealthy. Her and her husband are worth close to $1 billion, and she's spending a tremendous amount of money trying to get elected. And then there's me. So there's the 3 of us, and so I have to win the primary. So figure my chances of winning the primary. I mean, it's at least 1 out of 3 because there's 3 of us. But maybe it's, I got a 50-50 shot of winning the Republican primary. And then, I've got to run and win in the general election. So I don't know, maybe if my odds are 50% there, so maybe I got a 1 in 4 chance of winning. I don't know how to really handicap it, but I think it is a real possibility that I could be the next senator from Connecticut, and I think that would be a major step in the right direction. Because right now, everything that's being done in the United States Senate is wrong. I mean, everything the government has done in the aftermath of this crisis has simply set the stage for a bigger crisis. They're making the same mistakes they made after the NASDAQ bubble burst. The government created the housing bubble. It was the result of their monetary policy and their regulatory policies. That's why we had it. It wasn't because of Wall Street greed. It was because of government incompetence that this happened. And unfortunately, they're just as incompetent now, if not more so. The damage being done to the U.S. economy by current monetary policy and regulatory policy is even worse. The aftermath of it is going to be horrific for most Americans, not only in their general lives and their standards of living, but certainly for investors and savers